that room over there is where all the musicians record. This is my main room. So yeah, I spend all the time here. This is my hamster wheel.
I just wanted to welcome you, and I wanted to start off by asking you about the latest album. Um, I know that it kind of serves as like an homage to Mexico City and to your hometown. Um, what was kind of the what was some of the influences you drew from that, like based on your upbringing?
Well, I started creating this album about Mexico City. But then I realized Mexico City is not longer called Mexico City. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Ciudad de Mexico, CDMX. And um, so I was not completely on board of doing an album about CDMX. So I want to do an album about the city that where I grew up. And funny enough, I started like just doing a lot of research on the city, and I never realized that it's a city that has reinvented itself for so many, like
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 times. It completely has changed, and over the centuries, it has been completely different. Like from a lake with the Aztecs, then pyramids, then Spaniards just throwing that and building on top, and then Mexicans. And so it's it's a city that is very used to change, continue changing. Um, so this album, it was kind of the Mexico that I remember, not in a nostalgic way. I think an album that speaks about changing, about how everything changes. I change the city, um, and it's about that.
Okay. Does do you think it's gone through like an era of gentrification like other places do, or
Yeah, I mean, don't let me go there, but I mean, every single city is experienced that. I remember Austin the first time I went, um, and Austin today is completely different.
yeah,
Cities change for good and for bad, and some things are amazing about change, but some are horrible and just kind of makes cities kind of uniform and pretty much standardized. So I'm against that, and I'm for other things that are changing and for good.
I completely agree. You mentioned Austin and like where I'm from, and it's definitely it feels as though it's like kind of in a negative space right now. And I think that like you coming here and touring here, like I'm sure you've seen a lot of the changes in that. So it's hard to kind of see something that you love in a very specific way kind of change dynamics as time goes on. But that's just part of life, I guess. But yeah, as far as the new album, like you've done like a lot of collaborations, and obviously there's like people that you're familiar that you've worked with, but the two that I've been kind of personally curious about is that I wanted to ask you about Graham Coxon. What was that like?
Well, it was a dream come true. Like, I mean, I grew up listening to Blur. That was
Mm-hmm.
my album, my band that back in the day it was the band that I was listening to.
Right.
So having that flavor in your album is pretty for me it's amazing. It's pretty crazy. Graham, when we did Compass,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, we kind of uh, got contact with Damon Albarn, and we couldn't record at. We were in different cities when he was in Mexico, and so we kind of when I heard Graham was touring Mexico, I contacted him, and he just spent a couple of days at my studio just recording stuff. He recorded a lot of the guitars on the album,
Really?
uh,
Wow.
and yeah, that's the he sang on one song, and So it was pretty magical, and I think it was when you meet your idols and they are cool and they have probably the same references as you have, you understand
Mhm.
why you're a big fan, because pretty much they the music they did was based on some things that I love, and so it totally makes sense. Like for me, it was a realization to just to imagine that he he had the same cultural musical references than I have. So that's why I'm super big fan. Like he took that and make it a something fantastic. No?
That's amazing. It's kind of funny with a band like that because it does speak to like I grew up in El Paso and just growing up like on the border, and there's just something about like that Britpop era or new wave or something that just kind of like speaks to me. Like it's always been such a like a strange familiarity, even though it's so completely different. You know, does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I have thought a lot about it, and I think for me, it's at that moment it was a defining thing. Like
Mhm,
I was who I was because I listening to Blur and the Smiths, and I listened to goth music,
mhm.
and there were not that many people that listening to that in Mexico City. So the ones that I met, they became instant friends because we shared the same musical taste. So now things are different, and I think music does not define you. I mean, you're made of so many things and information. But back in the day, it was a defining thing. Like I'm who I am because I listen to Blur or the Smiths.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And then on the more kind of contemporary like idea, something that's really popular with a lot of our readers is like somebody like Cuco. Like how do you find somebody like that, or was it something that like a mutual kind of admiration for what you've done in the past and like what he was doing now?
Well, it happened exactly the same that it happened with Graham Coxon,
Wow.
except that the music that we share in common was music from the past, like the music
Right.
that our parents listened to. Probably he grown up listening to very different stuff that the one that I like, but we listen to the same music through our parents. So we love bolero, for example. I think it was fantastic to find out that Coco is a modern crooner. So
Mm-hmm.
he kind of does that, and my mission on that song was to try to get the Cuco the more close to a Mexican bolero singer,
Yeah,
and
you could
it,
definitely hear it.
yeah, and it was great because at that moment it was the first song that Cuco did in Spanish, full Spanish. So
Oh, really?
uh,
I didn't know that. That's
crazy,
awesome.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I was like, really? I could swear you have a million songs in Spanish, but no.
that's so weird. Yeah, because I was that caught me off guard. I was like thinking about it. I was like, I thought he did, but I guess not. That's awesome. And as far as like the studio environment right there, I know like without like you don't have to tell me too much if you don't want to, but I noticed like on your social media, like you had Beck there recently. Like what is it something that you just stopped by to work on, or I know you've done remixes with them in the past, but like is the environment at your studio more of like kind of an open door policy, or is it like just if you're in town and you want to collaborate or just spend some time, like what is that all involved, or what does that entail?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like to create this environment that it you can create.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope the Beck visit lead to a collaboration or whatever. I mean, we did talk a lot about how to do what we should do together and it's fun, and it's the same situation with Graham Coxon. Like these people that you I mean, I know Beck uh, before I knew him. I know his
Mm-hmm.
music, what he thinks, So in a way, just we share a vision of the world, and it's very exciting. Like I hope it translates, and people will see what we are thinking on doing or doing. So yeah, it was great. I remixed him last year,
Yeah.
and we never had the chance to kind of hang out to have a full studio day, and so it was very exciting and fun. And that's when you remember, like, oh, I know why I admire that much that guy. Like, he's so
Right.
cool, you know.
Just kind of just touching on the tracks a little bit, like I like obviously like the big standout to me, and just especially visually, because that's how I kind of process things a little bit more, is the video and just the song "My America Is Not Your America." Like I don't know, like what was the timeline when you were producing that? What were things like here? Like
um I finished the album uh, right when the pandemic hit, so I was
okay.
ready to release the album at that time. And uh and I, everything kind of slowed the process down, and so right before the pandemic, I did a film crew just flew to Mexico to interview me about Morrissey,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Adam Newsler that he's doing a documentary on Morrissey, and so when everything started, I was like, hey, this is my record. I don't know when it's coming out. I don't know if it's coming out at all. Like, you should check it out. And he connected with that song, and it was very tough times between the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, everything
Mm-hmm.
that was happening socially everywhere over there in the States and here in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty intense. So Adam said, like, I'm gonna take my camera and just shoot uh, everything that is happening in California and on the Black Lives Matter. And he did amazing footage, but it misses half of the story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we had a conversation, and we thought, like, America is over there and it's here. So he flew in the middle of the pandemic. We did a shot, like we shot for a whole day in Mexico. So it was a like a great therapeutical video to kind of one talk about Trumpism and whatever was going to happen on the election, and
Mm-hmm.
also to try to do a postcard of whatever was happening socially on that moment. So it kind of everything put like it made sense. Like the song was made with that purpose. When Trump got elected, I wrote it, and it was meant to do that, but it completely made sense with the video. Like it was a very great. Uh, it was great to see that someone put a image on that, and it was fantastic.
It's kind of interesting to hear that it was like that it was made before like before last summer, because it just kind of it foreshadows it in such a very distinct way. I just can't like express that enough how much like I've watched the video like at least 20 times, just seeing that and just like kind of finding little pieces of imagery, and it just like means a lot. So it's just kind of interesting because you're right, like all that stuff, like it lends perfectly to it, but it was something that was kind of boiling under, and that something we were all kind of feeling even before that, the last, not just the last 4 years or whatever it was, but
Yeah,
it's
no,
interesting.
you're absolutely right. The whole idea, when I spoke to Adam, was not like, let's not do a video, let's do a flyer
Mm-hmm.
that can spread the word. You know, it wasn't, yeah.
that's, that's awesome. And so like we were kind of talking about the pandemic a little bit, like over the last year, obviously, like it changes like it affects everybody, and it changes a lot of the things. But did you have those like moments of kind of like, you seem like a person that kind of is constantly working. But did you have moments of just kind of a lack of creativity, or just kind of like a, like a slump in not knowing what you were, how you were going to be able to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long that probably first half of the whole thing was not creative. The second one was okay, like this is reality and this is what we have. But the first one, what I did, and I think it was interesting. It was that I didn't have the energy to do songs or to write new stuff, but I decided to produce. So I produced a lot of music for other people that really like had a lot to say. I didn't have anything to say. Like I just did
Mm-hmm.
one track with an artist called Jepe from Chile,
Okay.
um, and that was it. That was like they shot my pump, my pipe, and that was it. Like so, for 6 8 months, I was with nothing to say, but I was producing, and it was fun and it was exciting. But
Hmm.
it made me feel like it was not. I didn't feel committed to like to have to deliver or do something. And then slightly slow, like I've been trying to do stuff, and over the last 8 months, I've been doing a lot of music on my own. So
It definitely feels that way for a lot of people. Like I think that there was like just in any kind of creative kind of element, it seemed as though those first couple of months it was just like that uncertainty and all the things that come with it, and then everybody kind of felt like they were gonna find a way to move forward, but it was gonna be different. Like, do you think that like now where you are, do you think that when things finally get back to normal and you're on the road and you're touring and traveling for whatever reason, do you think that you're gonna care, like, has any of the dynamic of how you work changed to where you're gonna want like good habits that you're gonna want to keep, or do
yeah,
you miss the constant like kind of like busyness of it all?
no, not at all. Like I love to be at the studio, and
Hmm.
I used to spend a lot of time, but in between tours, so that it
Okay.
it is different. For example, if I was in Austin, I just get a studio, go sit
Really?
or just do something there. But being on by studio, it's kind of cool. It's gonna change, but I'm kind of just enjoying it a lot.
That's good. And I noticed that you worked with a. I have to like get a little bit local. I know you. I noticed you did something with Gina Chavez here,
Of course, yeah.
and
Yeah, that happened probably last year, end of last year, and I mean she's amazing. She
mhm.
has her own energy. So we did a track at distance, like me here, and she was in Austin,
Mhm.
and we kind of did a truly collaboration, like. From the distance, but it was fun. She's great. We're thinking on doing more stuff.
Yeah, she's fantastic. You've done like music supervision on like a lot of notable projects, like especially formative ones. It's like on a personal level to me, like everything from like Y Tu Mama También, like from when I was like a young kid, like to like Coco now, where I'm an adult, but I'm like crying in the theater. Like, uh, how do you like? What do you? How do you work through that process? Like, do you watch a lot of shows and kind of like find inspiration in how you would layer it, or do you do kind of is that the or you do the complete opposite where you just kind of look at it as a free space and never like visit it again, or how does that process work for you?
Well, I guess it was each one is different. When I did it to Mama También, I
Mm-hmm.
was super young. Like I was a kid, and Alfonso just asked me like, do you think you can do work on that? And I was like, sure, yeah, easy. Like I have done it a million times, and I have never done it. So it was kind of pretending I knew. Um, Liza Richardson did a lot of work on that, and that was she was a pro. But me, I
Really?
was just learning, and then I mean, the first time you do it, you understand how it's done. So
Mm-hmm.
it came kind of. I learned how to do it over the years, and with Coco it was completely different because I was just it was something that I was super passionate about, and it was very exciting, and it's funny, it's been 9 years. I'm gonna tell you a crazy story.
Okay.
Today, um, MCA died from the Beastie Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 9 years has been, and I got a Facebook message from Lee, Coco's director, telling me like, "Hey, do you want to take a meeting and do Coco?" I was like, "Oh, you're teasing me. You're like, who looks for someone on Facebook?"
I know, right?
He did, but I flew to San Francisco to meet with them, and the first call I received was Money Mark from the Beastie Boys saying like, "Hey, MCA died," and I was like,
Uh,
"No way, why?" Um, then I hung up, and I was super sad, and then second call was the Pixar offices, and they told me like, "Oh, there was a gas leak, and there's no way we can have a meeting. Everyone is going home, and offices are gonna shut down." So I just turned around on the airport and went to departures again and flew back to Mexico. And I was like, well, that's not gonna happen. That's it. Like, and 3 or 4 months later, they called me again. I was I was like, no, well, that's done. Like, I'm not getting the job. So, but it was one day like today, 9 years ago.
um, like, and is there things like that that you would kind of do in the future? Would you do like kind of a long form show or anything like that, or is that something that you like? Is it a fun process? It seems like the kind of to do something like that seems like a dream job, but it also seems like the most complicated thing that you can ever do because you kind of develop a style. And is there any other like shows that you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, yeah, I'm working on one that it's super exciting. I
Good.
You will find it soon, but it's very exciting, and you're absolutely right. It's super challenging, and you always have the feeling, or I always have the feeling, I will not be able to achieve what they want. So I'm always worried, like, oh, I'm not good enough. Like, but every time I have that feeling, I
I
have
think
to
that's the
focus
best
on
the best feeling in the world you can feel is that imposter syndrome or whatever it is,
it.
because I think that's
It
yeah.
is.
So one of my last questions, and this is important, the clothing collaboration. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a brand from Mexico City called Pies.
Uh-huh.
I always see like the clothes that they were doing, and I was blown away. Like they are a really, really exciting brand from Mexico. So, um, one when with pandemic you have time, so I was like, what if we, instead of doing the boring T-shirts, we just do something beyond that. And they got it. They got the idea. The artwork I think is very powerful. It's by an artist called Urbano Mata that did codex, Mexican codex, new codex, inspired
Wow.
on the Aztecs. So we kind of worked for months, and it worked, and they did it, and it's there.
That's awesome.
I'm still amazed. Like they have the shop a few blocks from my studio, and every time I walk there, I'm like, wow, it's real.
Just just to see that imagery on the store, yeah. Like I just from the like seeing it, it just seems like very like surreal. Like it's kind of like an interesting like feeling to see something like that. What were the like why did you choose the clothes? Was there like a meaning behind like the kind of pieces that you chose, like the styles, like not just going for like a traditional t-shirt or anything like that? Like was it like
Yeah,
an homage to something or
Well, the poncho is I wear ponchos all the time.
Okay.
Um, I was going to say I wear my ponchos at night, like the sun.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
but yeah, I think poncho was like a natural. Then the rest kind of fall in naturally, and yeah, one thing I didn't want to do was t-shirts. I mean, over the years, I always do t-shirts, and that's like typical. But this was different and exciting, and having those guys in, like, I should do something beyond that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today. It's been awesome. Um, hopefully in the near future we'll be able to see you here again.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I really want to go soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Richard. Gracias.
It was
Take
such a
care.
nice pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Me too. Bye
Thank
bye.